Welcome to Abstract Illusions Radio with host Jennifer Hillman. The show explores and reveals the human potential through creativity. So enjoy the show to create a life you love.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me on Abstract Illusions Radio. Today's guest has been a very dear friend, as well as a teacher, a role model, an inspiration, and I can just say he is truly a Renaissance man. He does incredible art, music, and writing. He does it all. His name is Jason Pollock, and I just got the urge that it was with all the energy changing and what he's been writing, and we both have been experiencing. It was time to have Jason on again. So, Jason, thank you so much on this very short notice for being on air.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's all happening now in the moment, as you know.
It really is. So, I mean, this is a time of a lot of shifting and changing and literally dissolving of an age that has been with us for the last 2,000 years, the Piscean. And can you talk about how it got worn out, how it is shifting, and what we're witnessing right now?
Yeah, it got worn out because it was time for us to get out of the polemic system of looking at things from the extreme poles. We're witnessing literally the dissolving of private institutions that have kept man enslaved in a way of thinking, in a way of believing. And now we're seeing where those beliefs are actually taking us as a collective now, too. And we're starting to really see the transparency, which is Aquarius, when everything becomes transparent. We're seeing the transparency of how crippling our belief systems from the past have made us actually as a humanity, and how much of a separation it's kept us from really connecting based on our belief. Because your belief of something, it doesn't matter what you believe in, because your action defines who you are. What you do is the final definition of who you are, because after you do something, you can't take that back. If you believe in something, you can change your beliefs, but you can't change your action.
A lot of people have been saying it's like before they felt like a puppet, and now the strings are being detached.
Yes. This story is so deep and profound, too. This story goes back so far. I've been researching so many things. I've been researching maritime admiralty law and the Roman Catholic Church, and how the Vatican and how the maritime admiralty law, which comes from Roman law, is essentially the same exact structure. And also how the Crown Corporation, which is it's the second city of London, and how that's a private corporation, and corporations in general, and what they're actually trying to do to take over the world, in essence.
Now, how does this, I mean, how is the internet helping the dissolving?
It's helping in one sense because it's giving us access to the information that basically is hidden from us, or the occult information. The occult literally means that which is hidden. And if you look, for example, I'm in Paris now. I've been living here for almost a year. If you look all over Paris, you can see occult symbolism everywhere. If you look in the United States, you can see occult symbolism everywhere. The occult, which is hidden, is now actually coming to the surface. And this has everything to do also with the Pluto and Capricorn transit that we've been experiencing as well.
Yeah, it's really It's almost, I always, when I think of Pluto in Capricorn, I really think of the Tower card because what was standing so firm is really falling apart to be rebuilt.
Did you notice too that once Pluto went direct, did you feel that? Did you see
Yes.
like everything just went
Yeah. Yeah. And now pretty soon Saturn will be out of its shadow period. It probably will be by the time the show airs. And that's really going to ground a lot of the fire energy. So they're even
Mhm.
more productive and more creative.
That's great because I'm a triple fire, Aries, Leo moon, and Leo ascendant. I definitely feel that right now as well. And also to go back just to reference what you just said, uh, I'll just say the symbolism of Pluto, death and rebirth,
Hmm.
or psychological rejuvenation in Capricorn, ruling government, ruling private institutions. Also, Saturn, basically ruling organized religion, especially Judaism. If you look on the top of Saturn, you can see a hexagram. What is a hexagram? What do we know a hexagram is in? Is the Star of David.
Hmm.
Uh, and when Saturn goes direct, as well, we're going to really see a lot of the religious stuff come out of the surface. We're already seeing it now, but we're going to really see what's happening behind the scenes on all of this symbolism.
Yeah, and there is a lot more symbolism being used even in the everyday thing. I mean, I'm constantly seeing the tree of life being referenced
Yep.
in so many things. Um, and it's very interesting how the shift of perspective is really coming to the forefront, and the groups that are uniting are really strong creative missions and
Yeah.
backgrounds.
That's because we did our homework. There's a saying that you have to understand the foundation that you stand on. Because if you understand the foundation that you stand on, if you really understand it, you're going to have to go and stand under it because you're going to have to look up at it and you're going to have to see if the foundation that you've created, if it has cracks in it or not. Because once you put that first floor up in the building or apartment or a house, you have to know that that foundation you've built is strong. Otherwise, whatever you build on top of that, it's going to completely collapse. And I think, in essence, this is probably one of the most profound statements that basically ties everything together that we're experiencing right now as a collective as well as an individual.
Yes. Can you give a better description of exactly what somebody's foundation is built from
Uh,
or
your
of?
your everyday life, everything you think, everything you feel, everything you believe, everything you do. You are who you are, not because you're just some accident that just appeared randomly from out of nowhere. You are who you are because of what you think about yourself and others, what you feel about yourself and others, what you believe about yourself and others, and then inevitably all of those things ends up being the action that you take based off of those things. So for example, we're seeing all this war stuff right now in the Middle East, and we're witnessing kind of. I don't want to. I hope it's not true. I don't really know at this moment, but we're witnessing kind of like World War III right now, because these
Wow.
people believe that it's better to destroy the world than it is to create it right now.
And even in the US, there's a lot of civil unrest that we're seeing. Um, I think it's very interesting. Somebody posted on Facebook um, a policeman who pulled them over being so polite and so very good that we're so used to seeing the negative. This person thought, not all cops are like that in the US. Here's
Yeah,
somebody who's really being very polite, very courteous and just doing his job. There's so much in the media, and I think it's interesting that the politicians are now picking on the media when they're the ones feeding the media.
Yeah. Who owns the media, though?
True, true. And it's a time of really seeing exactly what the media is built of, and understanding that it only gives us what we truly, they hide a lot of things, but in a sense, it's like a lot of people see what they want to see.
Mm. Yeah, I think these days you have to be really good at reading between the lines, and not,
Exactly.
and not really taking everything at face value because of the symbolism actually that we're talking about. It's literally like there's one story that's being told, and it's in the story of our language, our English or French or Spanish or whatever. But there's another story too, if you pay enough attention, that you can read, and it has nothing to do with what people are saying.
Exactly. And a lot of the things that is being said, you can say are metaphors. And
Yep.
there's so many levels of the story that you can see. And it's really a time of discernment and looking a little deeper than the surface. And a lot of people, for most of the percent, it's like whatever somebody told them, they took it as truth. And now I think it really, excuse me, started with the 60s. They started to question what the government was doing and questioning the value of war, where before the Vietnam War, we didn't question it. That's just what we were supposed to do. And
Yeah,
now, since Vietnam, it's like, do we really? Isn't there a better way of doing it?
there is. And a lot of the connections I can tell you about that, you know, since the 1920s, for example, we had Freud and his teachings of psychoanalysis. And he taught his nephew William Bernays, who inevitably, learned psychoanalysis from Freud. Freud said to his teachings were basically man is driven by his unconscious desires. He said if you can understand man's unconscious desire, then you can do anything to man. So he taught William Bernays. William Bernays taught the corporations of the United States all about psychoanalysis. He taught Hitler. He's responsible actually for a lot of what took place in World War II.
Well,
And
it's also interesting that Hitler's book is now being republished and available again.
Mein Kampf,
Yes.
yes. I never read this book, but I heard a lot about it.
Well, it was his theory on how government and life should be. So it's
Mm.
interesting that now in Germany, after it's been banned since World War II, it's now coming back out.
Yeah, it needs to. A lot of the suppressed information that we didn't understand back then is totally coming to the surface now. And and that's just one little aspect of it. The psychoanalysis teachings also you can understand through belief too, because every time there was ever a revolution since 1920s, early 1900s, there was always the corporations selling products back to the people doing the revolution so that it would take the power away from the change. So people would just become consumers and just buy things instead of actually take the initiative to come together and build a new system.
So, what are some of the things that an individual can do to accelerate the change?
Uh, Invest in things in with your consciousness and your awareness in things that actually bring about change in your life. Stop investing in things that keep you stuck and keep you feeling bad about yourself and shamed about yourself and basically it's like a bank, not the banks that we know right now, but it's like a bank. if you have an investment and the investment is just going into the negatives, then it's time to stop investing with that bank because you're not going to be able to really make very much money. I use this as a symbolism for life. Whatever you're investing in, if it's not working for you, you stop investing in it.
Exactly. And it goes with people, it goes with situations, it goes with your career, and really seeing what makes you happy and bring joys into your life and if it's really working great. But if you're investing your time in something that is just making you miserable, it may be paying the bills, but life is too short to really waste so much time just for getting a little energy when you can get that energy somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it's time to really invest in more natural and organic ways of living. I feel um, that our community is probably the first. It's the first place we should be looking. We shouldn't be investing in these huge corporate, like international companies. We really need to start like in the grassroots, like right where we are, instead of like a million miles away. Kind of like, for example, how we want to go and colonize other planets in our solar system, but we really need to figure out how to live on our own planet first.
Yeah, why ruin another planet? We need to correct what we've done before we spread more misery.
Exactly.
Uh, so it is very interesting how even in homes more people are downsizing. There's a lot of people finding quote unquote their tribe,
Yep.
and that growing your own vegetables is extremely popular and easy to do. You
Yep.
know where your food's coming from, number one, which is always nice to know.
Yeah.
And you always have whatever you're growing. You can just make it work. And it's also interesting how people are really wanting to spend more time with people face to face and not just on the internet. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people who are traveling to meet the people they met. And someday we will meet. Um,
We will.
we've been saying that a long time. It's just time for people to get back to nature, back to, like you said, the grassroots of what life is really about.
Mm. And for the age of Aquarius, because I don't want to tell you all the really negative sides, the age of Aquarius, if I had to say what it represents, it represents the knowing that we're all one, that
Hmm.
love is the answer for all things, and that basically, if we see structures in our lives and in our communities, we're going to innovate those structures so they can actually sustain human life.
And that's a really beautiful way of putting it. But why don't you just, can you summarize some of the negatives? Sometimes it's best to have the heads up of possibilities. Nothing is really written, but
Yeah,
there's possibilities of, there's, we can just say there's going to be more destruction before it's completely, it's like we said in the beginning, we're building a new foundation.
yeah,
So you got to tear down some things before it can be rebuilt. I don't necessarily think war is the way to tear it down. I think there's more peaceful and more beautiful ways of doing it. I've always thought that if there's a conflict in a country, get out the video game, pick your best player, and see who wins.
yeah,
There's no reason to have the machines and the man and the human life that really didn't sign up for this. In a sense they did, but in a sense everybody wants to have the chance to have a good life, and that's why we're here. And war is really not the answer to do it in the way that we've been doing it, but it's the greed and the money that keep it going.
yeah. Because people have this idea that they came here only to survive. and that's been ingrained so much in people that it's caused people to feel a fear about even living. Like, I have to survive, so this person is a threat to me, so I should kill them, and if I kill them, then all of a sudden I'm going to survive. But actually, it's funny. It's actually counterintuitive and counterproductive. It doesn't help us at all. It just creates more of the same feeling of fear.
Right. Why survive when you can thrive?
Exactly. And some of the things that I think the Age of Aquarius is bringing into us too that we should pay attention to, uh, artificial intelligence replacing humanity to the point where we don't know how to do anything anymore, where we don't think anymore, where we don't feel anymore, where we don't have the human experience anymore. Kind of like George Lucas, THX 1128 is one film that's a great example of this. Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, 1984, George Orwell.
Mm-hmm.
These are great reference to what we're experiencing, along with so many other movies that have come out recently that talk about a lot of this stuff too.
And it's good that the movies are reflecting and they are coming back to kind of shake us up to say, is this really what you want?
Mm,
You know, it's we have been getting warnings for so long of what has been going on in society that it really is time to actually do something with the warnings and not just say, "Oh, okay, I'll work on that tomorrow."
yeah, yeah. You can't keep postponing. Postponing just eventually brings you to death.
Well, it also makes it harder to change.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
it's so easy to get in that comfort zone that you don't want to do anything else. You just want to um, continue on and say, "Oh, well, that's somebody else's problem.
I
That's
call
not
that
me."
I call that living by default. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like when you get your computer and it has default settings. Imagine if you had to use your computer for the rest of your life with just default settings and you couldn't make your computer actually work the way that you think or work the way that you feel or work the way you live your life. That's it's living unconsciously.
And that really is, as you said, it's deadly to someone to not have um, that creative energy within. And we all have a sense of some amazing gift of creativity, a fire that needs to come out.
Yeah.
I was recently talking to a client who basically um, part of one reason he came in was to share his wisdom, and he's just flat out saying, "Nope, I'm not going to do it. I just want to, you know, do something with sports, and that's it. Play with the sports dynamics and see if I can get money that way," and not allowing his true potential really to come out.
Mm. That, that's awesome that you say that because that touches upon what I was going to say actually. Was that there's no point in having knowledge and there's no point in having experience if you're not going to share it with people because as a consciousness we learn from each other, and information alone is not going to really give us that experience. It's not really going to give us that wisdom. It's not going to crystallize our whole being, our whole soul. So
It really, go on.
you just hit the nail on the head by saying that. It's exactly true.
And it's interesting because this man has such a depth and an understanding, um, and yet, he wonders why things aren't working for him.
Mm. It's like being a book on a shelf that no one reads.
Yeah, but at least the potential of it is out there for someone to read it.
Yeah, we got to take ourselves off the shelf and dust ourselves off
Yeah.
and put ourselves out there.
And that's part of the human experience is vulnerability.
Yeah,
of creating something and seeing and say, hey, here's a part of me. And if people like it, great. If they don't, that's fine too. But
yeah,
that's part of the human experience is to put yourself out there.
exactly. You have to take a chance. If you look throughout history, the people that we remember from the history anyways, they always took a chance. There was these two guys, and they made this thing fly in the sky, called the Wright brothers. They
Hmm.
you know and people thought they were crazy. They were like, oh, look at these guys, they're just throwing this thing in the sky, they're never going to do that. Now it's common for us to go on an airplane, fly across the ocean, and be in a whole different country, in a whole different culture.
And the interesting thing about the Wright brothers is the fact that they had no corporate sponsor.
Yeah.
This other person who was working on the plane, who did have corporate sponsors and a lot of big names,
Mm,
failed miserably. And here these two people said, no, we can do this on our own. And they struggled in financially, but look what they've given us. And it's just amazing how so many people say, well, I need a sponsor, I need somebody to give me the money so I can do it. And in reality, it may take a little longer, but it's going to be so much better.
mm. Yeah, you have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
Exactly. And you just keep going. Um, the creative energy is going to be getting a lot stronger um, with the cycles that are coming up. Um, it's just till 2017 we're in a rebuilding cycle. Wouldn't you say? Isn't that when Capricorn switches out of Pluto?
Yes, yes, exactly.
So it is a rebuilding time.
It is a rebuilding time. And the other thing that to go back to what we're talking about as well, the idea that we're seeing right now of information. We're in the information age, so the another negative aspect that could happen in the age of Aquarius is that we think we know everything because we read it on the internet. This is also dangerous because this is information from the internet. It's not. It has to be put into life. It has to put into our action. We have to experience this information in order to be able to tell our own life stories about what we experienced from these things that we understand.
And another thing about our stories is it's a lot of it is, and I've gotten this and known this for a long time, is the collapsing of probably the last 2,000 years kind of falling on us now. It's like, here's all the lessons you've learned. Now, what are you going to do with it?
Yes, exactly.
And I am finding for myself, if I just write out what I've learned from a situation, it's like I can let go of that lesson and I can move on. It's like, yeah, she's got it. It's like she's done her essay for that assignment. It's time for her to have something else now. And I'm finding the things that I haven't written down yet, that I'm still collecting that information and discerning exactly what I got out of it. I'm seeing those stories lingering a little bit more heavier on me these days because it is time to write them down and let them go.
Yeah, I'm with you right there too. I've been doing a lot of writing lately, to release things from my consciousness that are old patterns that have been throughout my whole life that I've been living in, and I've been I agree with you. I've been seeing them in such a heavy way now too, and I realized that part of it for me has been being too open to people and available all the time, and taking everything for face value instead of investigating more and having more patience and really looking into what these lessons are that keep showing up,
Right.
and how I haven't really changed the way that I've been approaching these life lessons, but that's changing now ever since I've been writing these things down.
It,
and uh, and realizing what they really mean.
and it's there are so many different perspectives to every situation, and the more you just sit down, I find myself meditating more or just taking some quiet time, and it's just like all these like aha moments and epiphanies of, oh my God, that's another perspective of this person.
Mm,
And it's very interesting that Planet Waves is going to Eric Francis, astrologer and journalist. He
yep,
really does a wonderful job.
I'm familiar.
He is doing a series and asks for people's stories if they've had like a vision quest and what they've learned from it. So I'm writing up mine and sending it in. Um, and it's very interesting, even writing that up, because my vision quest happened when I was 12, 13 years old. And it literally told me about 30 years of my life, the lessons that I'd be learning, the people who would be coming into my life. And it's like recently I saw another perspective of somebody who was so within that dream who disappears. And now I understand a whole nother dynamic of why he disappeared.
Mm,
Like, he wasn't going to get what he thought he was going to get out of this, so it's time for him just to move on.
mm,
So it's very interesting again with writing out the stories and the perspectives that you've gained, the lessons that you've learned from it. And it's really opening and expanding perceptions and situations, and really helping me understand why I feel so connected to certain things. And that's the other thing. When I first started my awakening or reawakening, though I think we're always awakened some level,
yeah.
um, certain things really helped me. And then I kind of drifted away from them. And now I'm coming back to that foundation that really served me.
Yeah, the ebb and the flow.
Yeah, I really have a better understanding of how they best serve me and what doesn't serve me, as you said. And that's what the energy has been with all the planets and the eclipse. And we just had recently a full moon in Taurus, which is really grounding what we really want in our lives. So
Yeah.
it's been a very interesting experience, and it's going to continue to expand the mind of consciousness within the human experience. At least that's what I'm really hoping, and part of what I'm doing on this radio show is help people understand the different perspectives of the human potential. And there's so many ways and so many things we can do that.
That's the beautiful thing about what you do on this radio. You're doing a transmission. You're transmitting different ideas, different perceptions that some people listening probably might not have thought about before, maybe are a little familiar.
Hmm.
The beautiful thing is you change the world just by sharing this information and sharing this with an audience as well.
Well, I certainly hope I'm doing my little bit. One thing I really want to do is celebrate the human potential, and that's what I've made the show about. Is the creativity of people is amazing, and the life lessons they're willing to share, and the music. Music is such a high vibration, and I do my best to, because they're storytelling.
Yeah.
Even if it's just instrumental, just the instruments, there's a story in it. And even if it's just, you can create your own story within that music. And it's just so empowering, and it needs a lot more supportive. I think that's why so many people are now singing and writing music and performing music and getting themselves out more fully in the world. And that is one of the bonuses of the internet.
Mm, I know it's like the Greek plays, except for now with the technology in the mix, there's so much more access. It's not like a big, huge audience goes and sees a Greek play, and then there's just a couple of people on the stage who actually understand the show. now where our audience and the people participating in their performance is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because humanity's consciousness has a huge story to tell. And this story isn't just happening on our planet. This is the whole story of the whole universe. It's like the drama of the universe.
And we get to play. We need
Yeah.
to be, we're all just actors in this, and helping expand the possibilities.
Mm,
Um, so there's one thing I just realized I forgot to do in your intro is actually tell people how they can see your amazing work. So
mm.
what is the best website for you these
So
days?
so my portfolio is my name, jasonpotvin.com, JASONPOTVIN.com. And basically, if you go to my website, you will see collections of paintings. You will see books that I have for sale. You will see many different projects. I run an online group on the internet right now called the Consciousness Collective, which is Renaissance artists that basically I've attracted into my life, and I showcase their work. And I've been actually participating a lot here in Paris with the different art things happening here, and actually meeting new people, filming their performances, taking pictures of them, and featuring their work online. Um, and basically, I'm actually starting to get a lot of traffic on this group. People are starting to really resonate with the way that I'm presenting the information, just super simple and just letting people digest it and come to their own conclusion, own understanding and experience with this information. Also, I have under the project section, I have a bunch of blogs that I've written over the years since 2008, actually. Some are very poetic. Some are psychological stories that have a lot of symbolism embedded in them, and you have to really read slow because they're very dense. And then I also have a blog that's purely just about the process and the thinking behind the paintings and the visual art to connect it all together.
Let's talk about your paintings. What called you to start doing painting?
I started painting when I was 18, actually. I don't know why. I kind of had this like inner feeling that I had too much stuff going on inside that was not good. And I had a friend, his name was Jason Fisk. He's still a friend of mine. And he gave me some paints and he said, "Dude, you need to paint. You need to like figure out how to release these emotions from you." And I remember I had just moved into an apartment with him, and we actually painted on my bedroom wall like this crazy scene. It looked like it came out of like Dante's Inferno. And after we did that painting together, I really connected with the understanding of why people paint. It's super therapeutic. It's super right brain, especially abstract expressionist work. It gets you outside of all of your logical processes, and it's just a very emotional and cathartic experience to release things.
And that's why art therapy is such an amazing therapy. Art, writing, music. I mean, it's a healing element and a healing modality that really has been used for thousands of years that people didn't even realize it. Um,
That's true.
so do you have any gallery showings of your work? Do you still have gallery work in New York, or is it mainly in Paris now and on
So
the internet?
yeah, basically, I've been doing a lot of organizing this year. More so organizing than creating a lot of work like I was before. I was just totally in creative mode in New York, and coming to Paris has given me the time and the space to really organize and connect everything that I've been doing, because a lot of the stuff that I've been doing has been for over 10 years now, and it's very ambitious what I wanted to do, what I've really felt I've always wanted to do. I kind of envisioned myself kind of like Rodin, the statue maker, the French statue maker, and I kind of envision my life like him. Like, you put a bunch of pieces of marble together and you carve a bunch of different statues and you connect them all so that they all connect to each other. And because I want to tell a story. I'm a storyteller, but I want to be able to communicate to different audiences. I want to connect to people who are solely visual. I want to connect to people who are use their ears to listen. I want to connect to people who read books and read writing, and that works for them that way. I want to take a photo, and I want to showcase that and show people that from a photographer's perspective. There's just so many ways to communicate, and I'm kind of trying to show people that the reality is not just like this left and right way of looking at things, like this black and white, like super rigid, condensed way of looking at the reality. There's so many different ways you can touch someone's heart.
And with that, is there any final words of wisdom that you can share that would assist people in getting through this reformulation or this rebuilding process now?
I would say for people to take time, take space for yourself. Look within yourself. Look what's happening outside of yourself and connect that to what's happening within yourself and vice versa. Not only that, trust your gut instinct. What your gut instinct is trying to tell you is probably more profound and probably more clear than what your mind is trying to tell you when it's saying yes and no and black and white and gauche and droite and left and right. And we have to get deeper in our practice in our life, because when we go deeper, it gives us depth. And when we go to climb the mountain again, to go and reach those heights to the heavens, like man has always been doing, we have a different experience for that journey when we climb up to those peaks.
Indeed, we do. So, once again, Jason, it is always an amazing time with speaking with you. You always enlighten and brighten up the world with your words and your images and your stories. So I thank you once again for being on Abstract Illusions.
Thank you. And you know what, too? You always bring out the best in me. I love doing this show with you because you really know how to extract the information out.
Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed doing it. So that's what I try to do with all my guests. So I thank you very much. And with that, this is Jennifer Hillman saying, with each breath of air, we hope you gain insight, information, and imagination. Till next time, have a beautiful week and enjoy some of Jason's music on his upcoming album. Have a good week.
Szechuan blisters, decode cryptic memoir. In pocket I hide my guitar, laughing as I trip to Sahara. Devil follows, with tickle feather. I search for uptown, tracks to downtown. I find it all the same. I heard the west side, danced on the east side. I made those devils home. Kiss scarlet fever. I bet her tooth I can guess her flavor. East in the